when I come in here, and I know you've both been in here a bunch, so not going too deep, but I want to cover a few things that I think maybe I do a lot of that I don't even think about that happens on a day-to-day. So if I click on visit my account and then my account, first things first, domains. Carrie, I know you've been in here a lot, but Richard, if you need to find domains, they're right here. You can actually search what domain you want to look for. Anything that contains fast, let's say, is right here. And this is where you can actually click in and manage those domains. But one thing I really like is if you want to forward a domain, you can do it very easily. You can even forward multiple domains. Mm-hmm. So like, honestly, this one should be going to our website, right? So I can come in here and click add, and it'll update the name servers and the mapping and everything for you. And then you can say, I want it to be a permanent forwarding, or I want it to be temporary. So after a certain period of time, I want it to shut off. And also you can forward it with masking, and it definitely slows the load time down. So I'd be careful with that. But what's cool about that is if you use masking, if I go to richardguillen.com, but I actually want it to take me to apple.com, my search bar will still say richardguillen.com, not Apple. Okay. So if you want to make like a really easy URL for somebody, and for whatever reason, it's like, I want the URL fastfitrocks.com to be the one they continue to see. And one reason you might want to do that is because if you run an ad with a very specific domain and people see that it forwards them to another domain and it changes, they might get creeped out. Like, why am I on a different website right now? This isn't the URL I typed in. Yeah. So masking it allows them to be like, oh, this is where I'm meant to be. And literally, if I save that, well, I will save this one. It'll update the name servers. It usually takes about 2 minutes, sometimes longer. Another very important part about this whole deal is on the upper right-hand corner. This guy, Luke, is Doug's account rep. And if you call this number, you'll either get him or somebody else. You don't have to wait on hold. You'll get somebody within 20 seconds. Yeah. Because he spends so much money with them, they're very good. They'll go like hunt down domain names for you to try to buy them on your behalf. And Doug's like, hey, can we get da-da-da? Is Doug Zuko's awesome, or Carrie's the bomb, or Richard's the man.com available? And it says like, this may be for all of those. Let's get them all. So, I mean, you could go through and like do the traditional click on the button and send a bid and try to buy it. Or you could just call this guy and be like, hey, can you guys go hunt this down? And they'll go grab somebody from their team to go buy it, who's a master negotiator. And they'll say like, what's the most you're willing to pay? What's the least you're willing to pay? And this will probably happen to one of you in the next month or two with Doug, where it'd be like, I'll pay up to $1,000 for that, but offer 200. Offer 200, see if we can get it for that. One that this guy's been going after is fastfit.com. Mm-hmm. Fastfit.com. But when you call this number, and I know you've gone through this, they're going to ask you for your PIN and your customer ID. So your customer ID is right here. That's what you use to log in. That's your username, Carrie. You already know that. Richard, you already know that. And then your PIN is right here, and they will not help you unless you have that PIN. So that's super important.
And you need the second or the two-step verification.
Oh yeah, you do. You're right. You need that text message code.
Yeah.
Yep. If I come back to my account and I click on domains, this is super important. So, oh geez, hang on.
I don't know. And then sometimes it'll leave you logged in. Like I used to back a long time ago when I was monitoring this thing, I would go to on my phone or something. If I was out and about and something was going on, I'd go to log in and I'd already be logged in. It was weird. So it'll either kick you out every 30 seconds or just leave you logged in for a year, whichever it feels like doing that minute.
I prefer the leave logged in.
Yeah.
Now, if I click on a domain, this is where I can go manage it. And I do use this all the time. So this one's super important. So if I come in here, and I scroll down to manage DNS, this is where I can update the name servers. So like, depending on like, there's certain services, like let's say you decide to build something on Shopify would be a great example, or a more obscure one other than Shopify. A lot of those will say like log into your GoDaddy through our site and we'll automatically attach it. But then there's other sites that are like, you're on your own. Take these settings, go into your GoDaddy and set up those settings yourself. So if you do that and it's talking about update your DNS records, this is where it's talking about. So it might say, hey, come in here and add an MX record, and it'll tell you what to do. It'll say like the host is the @ symbol. and this points to 234.serverhp.us, whatever. It'll give you the domain. It'll tell you what priority to use typically. And then it'll usually tell you keep the TTL settings the same. So like, Gary, you probably know what all this stuff means. I just know how to use it. I couldn't go into like the in-depth science of TTLs, but you know, yeah. So I'm like the guy who knows how to drive the car, but I don't know how the engine works. But if you need to update it, it's right here. And then name servers is here as well. So you can actually change your name servers, and you can enter your own name servers, or sometimes it'll allow you to actually connect out to another site. So this is, you know, like, you may already know this, Richard, Carrie, I know you know this, but just like for the cheap seats, this is telling it exactly when to ping the domain. It's telling you exactly what website, like it's pointing the domain to a specific site. There's, you know, sometimes like with Webflow, the hosting was not done on GoDaddy. The hosting was on Webflow, but it was forwarding the domain to that server.
Yeah.
Whereas with our hosted sites, the server is held on GoDaddy. So, and also like if you ever get stuck, like Luke or anybody there could walk you through.
Okay.
But it's pretty, I mean, it's very Googleable. It's like a one pager on Google,
Yeah.
like 3 sentences, do this, this, and this, and you're done. And sometimes like a good example would be this. You set up a brand new G Suite account under a new domain because you want the email inside Gmail instead of Outlook. So you're like, Outlook's horrible. And Doug started this new company called Shazam, and let's have our email hosted inside Gmail instead of Outlook. Well, I know for a fact that it'll try to auto connect, but most times G Suite connections for emails break. So it's going to say, go do it manually. And you'll try an MX record and that won't work. It'll say, oh, do an alternative, do a CNAME record. So you'll be in here like, okay, the MX didn't work. Let me do a CNAME. And you'll go enter everything they said, and then you'll save it, and then you'll go try to verify it again on G Suite. And eventually it'll say like, yeah, you're approved.
Okay.
Or the one that you had them try to automatically do 2 hours before will go through. Like there's just weird things like that where you're going to have to end up sitting in here, kind of like spending some time troubleshooting and connecting things. And then you can actually, like, this is one thing that I didn't get into deeply with Doug, but I let him know, like, GoDaddy just acquired the best domain resale site on the internet that has way more reach than them in terms of selling domain names and advertising out. And now I don't know a lot about it. You could talk to Luke about it, but he's got 228 domains. And I told him like, hey man, there's probably 10 or 20 of these you don't want anymore. Instead of letting them expire, try to sell them. So you can do that. And they're willing to help with that. So okay. You might want to dive in and look at some of that. It's a way for him to make money right now without spending money. And some of those, it tells you evaluation, like some of them are in high demand. Some of them were $10 and now they're worth 6,000 or something crazy, yeah. You know? When I come back into this menu, the other one that's real important is SSL certificates. So all of these are allocated right now. This is one you might want to look at. We never touched the old site where it's hosted because we didn't want to lose the data. Yeah. So we've continued to keep it there. I don't know that it needs an SSL on it, but again, we didn't. So. Yeah. So I you know, you can go through that. It's going to expire a year from now. It looks like it just renewed, or no, it's a 2-year. So you got all the way through next year. But if you needed to, you could probably, I would talk to Luke and stuff, but you could probably unassign this and assign it to something else. Like what you could literally do is say like, we're not using the simplereviews.com anymore, which is true.
Doesn't Learn About Fastfood have it?
I
don't see it there.
I don't see it here either. So that could be an issue. Let's go check that out real quick. Learnaboutfastfit.com.
It's marked as safe, so it hasn't.
I don't know. That's super weird. Strange. Oh, you know what? Because it's contained under, it was a included, it was a deal they were doing where it was just included. You couldn't manage it, but it was, we'll do a hosted certificate on this for you. So if I click on this SSL, like I had this issue with FastFit Nation where we didn't have an SSL attached. So I went and found an old site we're not using. I came down and I said, hey, I want to change the site that the certificate protects. and I want to move it to a hosted domain. And it's like, hey, here's all your hosted websites. Which one do you want to move it to? So you can do that. Otherwise, if you don't have a free one, like you got to literally come in here and you got to click on GoDaddy here and go shopping and go find an SSL.
Okay.
But when you add a brand new hosted plan, it should come with it now.
Okay.
So you shouldn't have to go buy one. It should just be included with the hosting plan. So like perfect example, Doug wants to start something. I don't know why I'm coming up with this name, but he's like, I want to start a company called Shazam. And now it's ShazamWeightLoss.com, right? Let's do a new hosted site. Like we don't have any more hosted sites. So you'd have to actually go get one. So how you would do that is you'd literally come in here, click on hosting in WordPress, and you'd say, I want to create a site. And it's going to tell you like, hey, you don't have a plan, go buy one. So you can just go through that process. But right now, this is where all of our websites are contained. And you know, what's important about this is that under this 3 dots, there's WP admin, and Carrie, this is how I log into these sites. So I don't like dealing with the /WP admin and login issues with WordPress and all that. So traditionally I'll just come in here and say, I'll just click WP admin, and it'll literally log me in as the administrator to that site so I can be on the back end of WordPress. So you asked about like WP forms. So I can literally come in here, I can click on the top menu, I can click on hosting a WordPress, I can come down, I can do the 3 dots, and I can click WP admin, and it will just log me in. I don't need to log in again. So that's super nice. And when I'm in here, now I've got all my plugins and stuff on the left-hand side, and I can go find WP forms and click on it. And now I see all of our forms, whether they're being used or not. I can literally click in and see the hard data, the entries that were entered. So like for whatever reason, if Cognito forms, or I'm sorry, if Google Sheets broke and all the hard copies spread, I don't know, if all this data was lost, it's living here under entries. So I've got a hard copy of every lead we've ever gotten. Yeah, that's good, right? And then Richard's really good at WP forms. It's pretty straightforward, but it's already keyed in and hooked up with a license key. And you can do, you know, you can create new forms here, stuff like that. To be honest with you, I like Cognito forms better from a user standpoint. It's just much easier.
Yeah.
But this is here if you want it. So yeah, it's a really nice way to come in and actually manage it. It's just clicking WP admin inside this host panel. And then I could actually remove, like I could come in here, I'm not going to do it, but I could go into, I think it's settings or tools. And where's it at? Yeah, remove. I could remove the entire site from this and then assign this hosting plan to a new domain, which is cool. I can also add multiple domains. So I can, like, when you create a new hosted plan, it'll give you a nonsensical URL to test it out. But when you're ready for it to go live on that domain, you just click attach domain. And I could actually have multiple domains attached to this rather than just forwarded, actually attached to it on a name server. And there's a difference, right, of forwarding and actually attaching it to the name server, and sort of. And then when I click on any one of these and attach it, it will go update the name servers and the DNS settings for me. So like when we migrated into FastFit Nation, I literally just came in, attached domain, and when the back end, when you're like, it's ready, let's go live, I just attached it, and within 20 minutes, it was live on that domain.
Yep.
So that's super important. Email and Office, Carrie, you're super familiar with this. Just for Richard, if he has to, you can actually come in and delete, remove an alias from an account. So if we know that Erica is no longer with us, which is true, and you talk to Doug and he's like, hey, let's get a new email. Like he wanted TV@fast.fit as a new email, right? It's like, well, instead of buying a new one, let's just go manage this and delete this user so that I can add a new one without paying more money. And there's a lot in here actually, because I was just going through it that aren't being used. So I would say for the foreseeable future, you'll be able to go in, and there's certain emails you might want to hang on to. Like for instance, Bethany had a fairly big role in the company, and there's probably emails inside her email that he might want records of for whatever reason into the future. Same with like Dr. Gupta. Like I haven't deleted that one because it's like, or Drew, like these are people where they've got emails in there that might be super, super important for whatever reason. And so it's like maintain it, but like, I don't know. There's definitely ones where like Matt, who's at the call center, 100%, this could be deleted. So I can literally click here, click delete account, give it a second. Yes, I definitely understand. Let's get rid of this one. Okay, so now that I've deleted that, now it's saying like you don't need to buy one. See how the money thing went away, like the buy seat, and I can literally add user. And I wonder if his thing.
Oh, it updated now.
Oh, there we go. So I can come in here, select the domain. I'm not going to have this auto renew right now. Because I don't know if I'll continually use it. TV, I can give it a name that I want to show up. No, administrator position, permissions, no. I'll send the account info to Doug. And then it'll start to go through and set up. And the next screen will say, is there a number you want to be notified out when this account is ready? And I'll always just plug my number in so that if I'm, like when Lolly came here and she's like, needs an email, it texts me and let me know like, hey, that account's been set up.
Yeah, because it takes a little while.
Yeah, and then finally it's like, oh, here it is. And it'll, you can plug your email in there or whatever if you're the one setting it up. So it'll send you the temporary password. So that's super easy. What else inside
Temporary
here?
passwords seem to be problematic as well. So I usually would go in and set my own temporary password for them and send them that and tell them to change if they want to. But when I was doing it, we had issues with the temporary password for some reason. And if somebody ever has you set up an email for them, when you're giving them their login stuff, especially if it's a new employee, be sure that they go to the email login for GoDaddy, because a lot of people try to go to the domain login for GoDaddy because it's the first one that populates when you search it. And they'll put in their information, they'll tell them that the account doesn't exist. And so then they're like, oh, my email doesn't work. They're just on the wrong website.
It's not going through the GoDaddy. The one I've been using is I literally type in Outlook sign in.
Yeah.
You know, and do it that way. Hey, Carrie, hang on 1 second. Sorry.
Sure. Sorry, it was Hilltop. I'm gonna call them back.
No worries. Last thing on here, I hit GoDaddy on the upper left. This is where I can go get a domain. So like Carrie is the best search. CarrieIsTheBest.com is available. That's awesome.
Like $12. I'm gonna get it.
So I'm gonna click add to cart, continue. And then right here, Doug always likes to set it to 1 year instead of buying a domain for 2 years. But if you get like fastfit.com, definitely buy that thing for 10 years. And then I don't add this privacy protection. I mean, you can talk to Doug about if it's something that like he wants to protect his name, because you can go to like whois.com and actually search all the information of who owns it. So if he wants to keep it private, I click on checkout. He's got a card on file, and I'm sure this will happen. Carrie, this has happened to you. It's like my 5th day on the job. We sat here about like 30 domains. He's like, type this in, look at that. Buy it. Next one, buy it. And I was like, holy cow. And then I understood later that it was real estate, you know, and it made a lot of sense to me. Most people don't think that way, but
Yep, he's had me do that too. I was in the car one day on my cell phone, and he was just like, I think it was before he was in Vegas. I think we were in like Virginia or Georgia or one of those, and I'm in his car, and he's like, buy this. I'm like, okay. He's like, buy this. And I'm on my cell phone just buying. That's how we ended up with fast.fit too. He wanted fastfit.com and it wasn't available. He's like, try variations. And I was like, what about the .fit? So that's how we ended up with our emails. I was in his car riding down the road buying a bunch of domains.
That's hilarious. I'm glad you've gotten to experience that too, long before me, because it's at first you're like, what?
Yeah.
But it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. Also, this may or may not come up, but his billing address is different. So if you do one of these, talk to him about that because he's using his home address. Okay.
Is he not using Shannon's? Yeah, so that
No,
billing address, that's for Shannon.
Yeah, he's not anymore. This used to be for everything, but he's using the 3110.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, so that's GoDaddy. And then last but not least, my most fun program in the whole world is BizFlow. So
Oh, Lord.
I actually already created a video for this. And there's a site called, and I don't know if I can stomach to go through this right now, so that's why I recorded it separately. So if I go to fastfitbodysculpting.com/how-to, and I add the password Knights 2019 with a capital K, and this is on the password sheet, it's right here. So I'm not exactly sure how long. So when you this is 15 minutes long, but what this goes through is how to change the calendars. Richard, you're not going to have to worry about that, I don't think. Carrie's sort of has the keys to the kingdom, and Doug wants to keep it with just her because there's no chance of like random calendar changes that conflict. I show how to add a user in here, which is very, 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 very easy. Setting up packages and promotions as well is included in this. And Carrie, I know you've been through the orientation. I'm not sure if you've set up packages in the past, but I go through it in here. And then also how to do the autoresponders, which I made another video that's 4 minutes long that summarizes, remember that hour call we had with Jason like last week?
Yeah.
I did all of that in 4 minutes. I was like, that did not need to be an hour-long call. So I redid it in 4 minutes because I give it to Quinn, because I had Quinn go set up some of that stuff. And that's very simple. But if you want me right now to go through how to set up packages and promotions, I'm more than happy to if you want to ask questions about it. Or otherwise, I do a pretty in-depth overview here. It's totally up to you guys.
Yeah, I can watch that. I've done packages before.
Okay.
The only thing I haven't seen, maybe you know, with BizFlow, is there a way to do a universal change across all of the offices? Like, so all of our offices have things set up for the use and whatnot, but for some reason, Williamsburg got left out, and it doesn't have universal stuff like the rest of them do.
It's not rolling up with some of the reporting.
No,
and
it does weird things like the confirmation emails and all that good stuff. Is that universal? Is that one by one by one? Can we spread that to them?
It is one by one by one.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, Williamsburg's not set up. I'll go in and mess with that, man. Fun time.
But I have at times walked over to Quinn's computer and logged him in under my admin, so that obviously we don't want to like share that information everywhere, but I'll log him in and set a time frame for like the next hour and have him go add, and he's very fast at it. So he'll go add all the packages to each location or whatever it is that is done across the board. And then I'll log them out. So he's spent a couple days inside here doing different stuff. He set up an autoresponder. He's gone and updated a promo code. He's done some packages. So I wanted to kind of teach somebody here how to do some of that stuff who has some time to do it. And he's going to be moving to a couple days a week here, but he's a perfect guy to work with to do that because he's doing mainly social media and frontline content and stuff like that. But I know both of you are tied up heavily, and it's really tough to go do something that takes an hour, 2 or 3 hours out of the day that really is like, I hate to say it, but it's sort of a mundane it becomes a task at that point. It's not strategic, and it doesn't make a lot of sense because, Carrie, I know for you could be making a lot more money for yourself and the company spending time elsewhere other than sitting there repeating, click, check this box, do that. So he's a good guy to do that. It's just I would keep the user information close to your cuff because, you know, like you said, Carrie, we've had incidents in the past where, you know, somebody gets pissed off or whatever, and there's just that trust factor, you know. So
yeah.
And even it's not even about trust at that point. It's just about knowing, you know, who can get in and who can't, and you don't have to think about it. You're just like, I know that these are the people with it and these are the people that are not. And then I also put something on here for WordPress SEO friendly blog posts. Richard would kill me because I did this in 5 minutes. It's really a 3-hour tutorial and there's a lot more to it. But if you were in a pinch and for whatever reason, Carrie, Doug's like, hey, can you or somebody else put up an article, Richard moved to Venezuela, that would be weird, and really want to get a blog post out about X, Y, and Z. This is like a crash course, but also Doug has hired Jason, and I think Jason even has a recording we should probably get. It's like 2 hours long. But this is all about how to set up the headings, keywords, the keyword research, the anchors inside of it, the alt text and image properties that you upload, the categories, like everything except for Google indexing through Google Search Console, and how to actually index the article. But this is what gets us 2, 3, 500, 1,000 views on a blog post, is actually like doing proper SEO on it, not just doing like heading, picture, body, heading, picture, body, header, picture, body, title, and publish it. You never indexed it. There's no anchors. There's no linking in it. So Richard's really, really, really good at this, and he's done a bunch of it. So if you ever wanted to dive into it, I think this is probably one of the most valuable skill sets that I've learned since being here. It's probably worth a couple $1,000,000, like seriously.
Nice.
Unbelievable. And it's super valuable to creating organic traffic to our website. And it's not a method people know how to do. In fact, I did a post about it inside a web developers forum to see if anybody else used the method. And I got like 20 direct messages from people, and they're like, can you teach? And I'm not a consultant, so like, no, I'm not going to teach you. But people don't know how to do it. Even people that call themselves SEO experts. I just had a call with a guy 2 weeks ago, and I'm like, he's starting his own business doing SEO. I said, so what's your SEO strategy and your blog strategy? And he has no idea what he's doing. He thinks he's an expert, but he has no idea. So this is really, really, really valuable. Really valuable.
All right.
So I put that there too. But that's all of it. I just updated this password sheet. It is contained inside of ffbs.mktg@gmail.com in the Google Drive. And it just literally is called passwords. It's starred. So I need to figure out those 1-800 phone numbers and what they're attached to, and fix Unitel. But other than that,
are we using Calendly anymore? I don't know.
No, I used it for interviews, to set up interviews with people, like 5-minute phone interviews. Because I'd blast 30 candidates with it and let them pick a time, and I'd just block out like 2 hours a day to do those interviews. And then also I used it we sent one email campaign that Doug approved where he said like, they can book a time through Calendly, and then you call them and actually get a real appointment out of it. Don't just let them book onto the BizFlow calendar. So we experimented. It didn't really work that great. So, but no, we are not using it. And actually I shut off billing on it. And it's no longer an account. So same with Sendinblue. I actually deactivated that account completely, even though I had already removed billing. I just closed it.
Yeah, that thing was worthless. It was a good thought. It was a good idea. It just a lot of email servers are set up to avoid things like that.
Mm-hmm. I will say this much though, there may come a time where he wants to do some like mass texting, and when we had Kathy and Matt here and Melody, we experimented with something called Avocado.
Yes,
like avocado.
A little bit, yeah.
So the one thing that was really good about that, and I'm not sure exactly how legal it is, but it doesn't send a stop, opt out thing inside the text. It sends each one as an individualized text, and somehow they get around the law for mass texting, and it allows you to message people multiple times, which again, like inside things like Ricochet, you can only message somebody twice before it says they have to message back before you can reply. And the management of it is really, really fast. So I like that. I've used that for years, and it's just super, super, super expensive. Like they charge probably way too much for it. If you're trying to drop 1,000 contacts in there and send out campaigns to them, you get into hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So at the time it made sense, because every week we would look at like, this much money was spent, but this much money came in. Okay, keep doing it. But it's a whole like learning curve. You got to have a whole nother window open. Really, we just don't have the lead volume to like make sense of something like that right now. So
yeah. Doesn't BizFlow have text capability?
I don't know.
I've seen in there where